Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Government Secrets with Lee Camp and Graham Elwood, episode 7. Banned from Twitter for 12 hours.
You know, I've always been impressed we were able to hire that announcer who does the opening.
He's great.
He's great. I think he's great.
He's always 5 minutes late. So it's really kind of, that's why I'm late, because he's late. I would be on time, but he's always like got to get his noises. Like it takes him time to warm. I don't know how he does it.
I heard he has to have a belly full of turkey gravy to do that noise. So that must be what it is.
I saw belly full of turkey gravy at Coachella in, I want to say 2013. Oh, unbelievable. I was microdosing.
Did you see them though after Gravy overdosed? So they were just belly full of turkey. Yeah, it was never the same. No. Never the same.
It was just belly full of turkey. It was like really, it was weird. And I tried. I really wanted to, but I gave it a chance. I gave it a chance. I gave belly full of turkey a chance, but I was like, Gravy made the band. Yeah. I mean, when the keyboardist started his own thing, and that I was more down with, because that was just separate, but it just
that was like colon full of cheesecake, wasn't
it? Which was a completely different sound. Colon full of cheesecake.
But at least he was going his own way, at least.
Well, yeah, because it was like we all wanted it to be with gravy, and it wasn't. So like when you went to colon full of cheesecake, you're just like, this is a new thing with an artist I like, and so you were more. I think we were all more open. We just so wanted.
And then they did that reunion. It was like cheesecake, turkey gravy, and I don't know.
Reunion shows are always tough.
They're always tough.
They're always tough. Like a couple years from now, when we do a Government Secrets reunion tour, it's going to be really tough.
I want to hear from the people who tuned in like 1 minute ago.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "What is this? This is really
like, what the fuck? Is this a new WikiLeaks? I gotta look this up."
Turkey gravy, 10,000 document dump. I
had a 10,000 document dump this morning. I felt pretty good about myself.
LeeCamp.com, ladies and gentlemen, for some colon humor. All right. So
should we do like 5 minutes on the convention of love and hope from this week?
You mean the convention that brought on a bunch of Republican warmongers? Is that the convention you're talking about?
I know. That was their way of selling themselves to America. They were like, listen, America, if you're not into us, if we're not war criminal enough, we have Republicans for you. So there you go.
It's the insanity. It's like when the right wing, when Obama was in office, and like, he could have come up with a cure for cancer and they would have been mad about it, right? Like, just this is the problem with the bipartisan country, is that there's these two sides. And if Trump, like, they're mad at him because he hasn't increased the number of countries that we're bombing. Like, that's literally what they're mad at. Like, when Bush was in office, end the wars, Obama ran on ending the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's what he ran on. That's why I and many others voted for him, was he was going to end these wars. And when he took us from 2 to 7, nobody cared. And then when Trump even said, just said it, we've talked about it before on the show, anytime he hints at ending a war, something crazy happens. When he's like, I think I'm going to pull us out of Syria, then all of a sudden people, like liberals, are like, oh, he's going to destabilize the region.
Yeah, there's a million reasons to hate Trump. And, I agree with most of them. But the actual reason that they want him out in a way they've never wanted a president out before, like they talk about how Obama coming forward and giving that speech where he's like, hey, the current president in office is dangerous, is incredibly rare. That's not how this system normally works. That's not what we've seen in the past from a former president. But the real reason that happened, the reason they're doing this in a way they never have before, is because of like that when he said he was going to create peace with North Korea, or the fact that even though he's put far more sanctions on Russia than Obama did, that's not belligerent enough towards Russia. So the real reason they want him out, and the establishment definitely outside of Trump, the establishment desperately wants him out, is for those reasons. Now, the other reasons that they tell us that he is a fascist and a racist and all those things are true, but those are not the things that really made them draw the line.
Yeah. Oh no, it's look, if you get rid of these boogeymen, North Korea and Russia, then what? Like, they can't have that. Like, we really, like, it's unbelievable. Like, but North Korea has tried to back channel peace with 2 or 3 presidents. I think now they've tried to back channel peace, and we were like, we won't do it because they're starving. Their country is starving. If we went to them, Kim Jong-un is crazy. Yeah, of course. And the Saudi royal family, they're a bunch of stable, nice people that chop up journalists and treat women like dogs. Like, those folks we're okay with because they buy our weapons and they give us their oil. Like, it doesn't hold any water. And it's like, don't you want, when Trump, like a year or two ago, went to Russia, and everyone's like, he's just giving, it's all hand jobs in the Kremlin, or whatever they were saying, I was like, there's so much about Trump I don't like. There's stuff about Putin I can't say I'm a huge fan of. But when the two countries that can destroy life on planet Earth in an atomic war are talking peace, I'm okay with that. Do you want to blow Russia up and end life on planet Earth just to say, see, like, I don't get it.
Right. It's like, there are so many disgusting leaders around the world, and we meet with most of them. And right. When we meet with or are friends with them, we give aid to 70% of dictatorships around this world. But when we meet them, that's a good thing. Even if we despise them, even if they are legitimately, which America has never done this, but even if we legitimately, at least not since maybe World War II, even if we legitimately wanted to stop a country because they were just harming their people, like legitimately wanted to do that, I would like for them to meet with that leader and try and come with some sort of diplomacy, some sort of effort to, like, let's discuss what's going on here and stop it. So the idea that meeting with someone is like, oh my dear God, he met with someone, is like so ridiculous. Obama met Putin. Hillary's been photographed with Putin. It's so fucking ridiculous that they're like, he talked to the guy. Like,
oh God, Bill Clinton was paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 by a bank with ties to the Kremlin to speak there. Like, the Uranium One deal, like I can't even, everyone has met with world leaders. Like,
Rex Tillerson, the former head of Exxon, got the gold star of whatever they call it, freedom or some shit from Russia. Like,
right.
This has been going, and that was not under Trump. That was way back under, I don't know, it was either Bush or Clinton or something. So this is nothing unusual for countries to like these are, and these are like capitalist. The reason they have been friendly with Russia until the past few years, is because these are capitalist countries agreeing with each other to have diplomacy. Like,
right.
The countries they truly in the past traditionally have hated and wanted and won't meet with them or anything are the socialist countries. So they're not going to meet with Fidel Castro or something. Right. Like, I know he's dead now, but my point is, like, the true ones that they're like, we won't even speak to them. It's just because they're socialist. It's because they house the homeless.
Yeah, and to that point, so we didn't have a problem. In 2012, Obama said, and a debate after Mitt Romney was like, Russia. And Obama said in a debate, the 1980s called it wants its foreign policy back.
Yep.
And like, the Democrats were this like, oh, let go of that old 80s Reagan era, scared of the Soviet Union.
I'd love to find the clip of, I believe it was Rachel Maddow and some of those others on MSNBC talking about Romney, who had said Russia was our greatest threat, and them just chuckling and going like, Russia? Sorry, it's not 1990 anymore.
Right.
Like, and in the like a moment they were told, hey, here's what we're doing, guys. Hey, it's all anti-Russia propaganda. Okay. Did you get the memos? Print out enough copies so everyone knows we're doing the anti-Russia thing again. And within, a fucking matter of weeks, it's all anti-Russian. It's like, what happened to that was the 1980s.
And like, it's so maddening to watch. Back to the convention. So Colin Powell, who helped lie us in to this illegal war in Iraq, is now being heralded by the Democrat. It just shows you, like, the Democratic Party is now the Republican Party.
Right. They're absolutely the traditional Republican Party is now the Democrat Party, and the Republican Party of Trump is whatever's right of the traditional Republican Party.
Yeah, just fascist greed, oligarchy, out of control capitalism with a tanning salon and cocaine. Like, just insane, whatever crazy
Those are diet pills. How dare you?
My doctor says I need to go to a tanning salon after I molest somebody. So this is how we're going to conduct our business here. Was I eat Wendy's in the White House?
I picture Trump, because he's all anti-alcohol and cocaine and everything. I picture Trump just like someone walks in the office and he's just snorting lines of like the powdered bones of his victims. And he's like, it's not cocaine. All right. People who do drugs disgust me. This is the bones of my victims.
I'm not a weirdo. I just have a certain diet. This is doctor ordered bone snorting. That's what this is.
Doctor ordered victim bones.
So obviously, I mean, Hillary Clinton has spoken at the convention, like, and the Vote Any Blue Will Do crowd. I mean, America gets this government that they deserve. They get it. They deserve it. The Vote Any Blue Will Do crowd will not hold the Democratic Party accountable. They will not do it. And they're the problem. Like, how do you watch I mean, I barely could watch any of this convention. I literally had to watch clips. And even those, I was like,
oh yeah, no, I only watched clips. And on Redacted Tonight, which is airing in a half an hour or something, I just covered clips from them because I tried to, Marianne Williamson, who all of a sudden is spitting fire, because once you're out, you can, you can begin spitting fire. She had the perfect line. She was like, because some other celebrity was like, isn't it great to see the DNC? It's so wholesome. And there's just a lot of kindliness involved. And Marianne Williams is like, no, it's garbage. It's like watching a 2-hour-long Marriott ad. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. It so is. It's just look, here's a black person saying something that means nothing.
It's and the thing is, like, Trump is so beatable on policy, on his failed policies, on his platforms. If you had like a lefty populist progressive, you could say, oh, he got rid of the pandemic task force 2 years ago. That's killing us. If we had free healthcare, we would be dealing with this pandemic better. If we had student debt forgiveness rather than giving the $1.5 trillion, which is the exact amount of student debt forgiveness, instead he gave it tax breaks to his billionaire buddies. You could go on down the line, but all of those things are actually good for, the Democrats make money off of war and for-profit healthcare and, for-profit prisons and all that. So they can't call him out on the things that he's so beatable on.
Right. They also want Joe Biden, even if Joe Biden were to put forward some sort of new healthcare policy that is slightly better or something, they don't want to talk about that much because they're trying to be everything to everyone. So they want right wingers to think that Joe Biden speaks for them, and they want progressives to think that Joe Biden speaks for them, and so they're just saying nothing. I mean, even the slight things they've put on the platform or claim they were going to put on, they keep then taking it down off his website, and then someone notices and calls them on it, and then they put it back up for a day and then take it down again. I mean, like all these things, like he claimed he wasn't going to have any, cuts to save the safety net and everything, and then that was taken down off the site or whatever. Like they just keep they don't want him to have any platform stances. They want him to just be the great mystery man that everyone can believe. Hey, just believe he's whatever you want him to be, because we fucking don't know what he is.
Well, and here's what they'll do. If he does get in the White House, he'll go, I saved Roe v. Wade. I saved Obamacare. And everyone will go, yay. And it's
just by showing up.
Just by showing up. It's like he won't do anything new that'll help. He won't. It's just like, and the economy will nosedive, and he will just give more stimulus money mainly to Wall Street because that's who put him in power. So,
and I will say this, Trump is an idiot criminal, and it would be fun to see him do some sort of perp walk at some point. Like, it'd be fun to see Steve Bannon go away if he ends up getting imprisoned for his latest con game where he got people to donate to self-fund building a wall at the southern border, which, it'd be fun to watch Bannon in jail. But I will say, if you fucking donate to build a wall like yourself at the southern around America, like, and it gets stolen from you, you fucking deserved it. All right.
I have as much sympathy for those people as I do for the people that paid for the Fire Festival. I've got the same level of like, oh, fucking prayers.
Oh my God. Steve Bannon and Ja Rule should run for president together. That'd be amazing.
That border wall is the Fire Festival.
Fire Festival of foreign policy.
Foreign policy.
Trump is really the Fire Festival. Oh my God, Trump is a dumpster fire festival. That's what he is.
He really is. And you can get front row tickets for $10,000, and you don't have to wear a mask because you're not going to die from COVID. Herman Cain was just weak. He was a weak quitter.
Ben Carson or Herman Cain?
Oh, whatever. One of those guys died.
I think it was Ben Carson died.
Oh, Herman. Yeah, Ben Carson. I don't care. Some dummy died because he went to a rally without a mask. I don't care.
Well, one of the 3 black men Republicans who are dumb enough to be both not white and a Republican.
Right. It's like the thing I am going to miss about the traditional conventions is with an in an arena with an audience is I loved for a whole week watching the Republican convention where the cameras would cut to the only 4 black people in the arena. It
was just diamond and silk, and they just have them move from chair to chair so it looked like more than one of them.
And they'd find one guy up in the stand. Oh, see, look at the diversity of the Republican Party. It's like, oh boy, you guys. It's like when you watch a rom-com with an all-white cast and there's always a black extra at the wedding. You know what I mean? It's like that. Oh, it's black extra. Oh, okay, great. Thank you, black extra. White Hollywood has bequeathed you $60 a day for 3 days from, it's great. All right, well, let's get into
See, this is our problem, Graham, is we start talking on one topic and then we never move on. We need some sort of radio morning show buzzer that tells us it's next topic. Just next topic.
Traffic on the 9s or something like that. Like, it's all right. Well, I've got one that sort of relates to what we're talking to. You're going to love it because it's Epstein related. But
oh, for the love of God. Okay.
Talking about how fantastic the Democratic Party is, and why when they take the moral high ground in the convention, right? They love taking the moral high ground. So then this just came out. Hillary Clinton gave State Department job to Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew. This just came out today. And so when they talk about it's funny when they're like, Trump is so corrupt. Yes, he is. So is the Republican Party. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And then when you bring up the corruption to neoliberals, they go, yeah, but this is okay. Like Hillary Clinton.
Right. It's kind of like someone was telling me about lesser of two evils today. And I was like, but can we at least agree that it's insane that we're choosing between 2 racist war criminals? Like,
yeah.
And they're like, well, the Democrats' war crimes were cuter.
I've always said this, and I think everyone in the Middle East will agree. They enjoyed the drones from Obama and Biden so much more.
Well, they were multiracial.
Well, they had rainbow flags on them. So they'd see them come and they go, oh, yay, diversity. And they come, boom, 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 everything would blow up and they'd go, thank you. It was fantastic.
They had a I'm a trans ally written on the front. So that counts for something.
Yeah, or I'm with her or something. It's really I'm woke.
The front said women of the future, I'm pretty sure.
I'm with her. So yeah, Hilary gifted Maxwell's nephew, Alexander de Gerasi, of course, he's got some weird cryptic name, a position within a department when he was just out of college and gave him special treatment. On his LinkedIn profile, which lists his role as chief of staff for the Office of the Assistant Secretary of State, Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs. That sounds like one of those fake jobs that like when I lived in Chicago, and they were just guys on Chicago's so corrupt, they just ghost payroll. Like somebody's nephew would be like sanitation supervisor liaison to the trucks up the street visitation bureau. Like what? What's that guy's job?
Supplier of the liaison to the trainee of the desk sergeant.
Vice chair to the liaison. Like it's just like what these fake titles. You and I should be giving each other fake titles. Like I don't know. One of us has to be a liaison to something. I mean, right? An assistant.
Well, I'm chief liaison.
Chief liaison. Well, I'm assistant vice chair of the liaison bureau of the Western District. So
well, and that's why you run the show.
I'm gonna get that on a business card. Just.
I want a business card where the end of the title has to fold out from the edge of the business card. Extra. It's like a pop-up business card.
And there's like you it's like those pop-up things where you move it and then it just shows like, oh, now I'm dedicated Far Eastern Affairs Consul General to the liaison of the Viceroy. Like, oh, I don't know what any of those things do, but they sound important. He also served as special assistant to the Office of the Secretary of State from May 29 to 2011, his online profile says. And he worked on Hillary's campaign from 2007 to 2018, which is just fantastic.
I'd love to hear that phone call between her and Hillary Clinton. Like, hey, Hillary, I have a nephew looking for a job. And Hillary's like, who are you again? And she's like, oh, I helped fly your husband around the world so he could fuck a lot of 14-year-old girls. And Hillary's like, oh, right.
Oh, I remember you. Oh, that's right. We invited you to our daughter's wedding.
Yes. Now I remember. Yes. And I believe you left with 3 women in a van.
Yeah.
You grabbed three of the guests I'd never heard from again. Is that, can we get those back at some point?
You're the one who supplied the paper t-shirts to the New York prison system last summer. Okay. Right. And let us not forget that Epstein visited the White House during the Clinton administration. Which, as I said, Maxwell was in. And I just like showing. This is a photo from Ghislaine Maxwell at Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010. There's Bill, who was on 26 times. There's Chelsea. Isn't that
so?
fantastic?
This is, let's be clear, that photo is after Epstein was already convicted of pedophilia.
Yes. So he was convicted
2010.
Yeah. So this is 2010. So he was convicted in that trial in Florida started around 07, 08. He was convicted in 09.
So they called up Ghislaine Maxwell and they were like, you know what? Water under the bridge. You know, just come on by the wedding, hang out with us.
And we're all supposed to believe, based on that, that whatever whitewash on Netflix, that the Clintons we didn't know. We just didn't. You didn't know.
How could we? How could we
possibly know when Acosta was told in 2009 to back off because Jeffrey Epstein was a CIA asset? How could we know?
Hillary Clinton's like, look, we didn't get Google till 2013.
I mean, didn't get the security briefings for 8 years in the White House, and I didn't get them as a senator. I mean, we didn't know. We just
or maybe they were like, look, the entire wedding guest list is filled with people who have just killed mountains of children. So you having a sex plane is like nothing. You are literally the most moral person in the entire room. We feel a little uncomfortable inviting you because you're going to make everyone else feel bad as the moral person.
Yeah. All the people that like drink blood, those folks, all the like Maria Ambrosovich types, they're going to be there. So you guys just got your little fun island. I don't know. They're going to feel like, oh, who are the goody two shoes over here? Yeah. And I also, this has no connection. This isn't a government secret at all. There's no weird connection between the Clinton Foundation and the fact that this guy worked on matters relating to democratization and civil society in the Arab world, Arab uprisings, Israeli-Palestinian peace. And he served the U.S. representative to the Friends of Libya conferences.
I was just going to, even before you said Friends of Libya, I was going to say that first title you gave is the like most obvious euphemism for fucking bloodbaths I've ever heard, like democratization and civil society or whatever.
Yeah, that just sounds like the Friends of Libya conferences too sounds like some sort of mob, like the Italian American Businessmen's Association. Business.
Listen, I want to be your friend. All right, I want to be your friend. I don't want to break your leg right now, but if you don't have us as your friends, I gotta break your leg.
I'd be a real shame if we weren't friends. If somebody broke into your business and it burned to the ground, that would be a real bad problem.
And then you can put a sticker on the front of your deli says "Friends of Gino." All right.
Everybody in town will know you're friends of Gino. Because if you're not, and I'm not around, it'd be a real shame if you ran into a couple of baseball bats right around kneecap level. You know what I mean? It'd be a real problem. But of course, you know, the Clinton staffers listed in Epstein's book, including Cheryl Mills, Mark Middleton, and Doug Band. And of course, Virginia Roberts Jeffries said that Bill Clinton visited Epstein's island in the Virgin Islands, and both Clintons visited his compound in New Mexico. And then he came there with two young girls from New York, of course. And then this is what Epstein said. You know, I remember asking Jeffrey what Bill Clinton is doing there on the island. Jeffrey told an attorney, according to a transcript of their conversation, so sworn deposition. She said Epstein laughed off her question and replied, "Well, he owes me a favor. So it's all good. Nothing weird here at all."
My favorite ever quote from these people. The quotes from these people after you know what was going on is like, it's just, they're incredible. My favorite is the Trump quote where he's like, "Oh yeah, I love Jeffrey Epstein. Good friend of mine or whatever. He likes those young women, maybe even more than me. I like how he always has young women with him," or whatever. And you're like, dude.
I know. It's really like, and then he said, like, you know, he said, I don't know. He literally last fall, Trump goes, "I don't know Prince Andrew." And it was like, you were in Buckingham Palace in June. Like, there's photos of him on an official visit, was shaking hands with the Queen and Prince Andrew. And there's all these photos of him and Prince Andrew and Epstein partying in the 80s and 90s. I don't know who the guy is. I've never met him. I have no earthly knowledge of who he is. And then
and before the case disappeared or whatever, I don't know if it was bought off or what, but the girl that accused Trump of rape, it was at an Epstein party, right? I think in the 90s maybe, but so she brought that case in New York, I believe, and then it never got to a judgment because something happened. She was maybe paid off or something.
Yeah, they couldn't track her down. They couldn't find her. It's sort of like, yep. So either they paid her off or
her forwarding address said dumpster behind Costco. So I don't know what that means, but
she was seen to be fitted with some very heavy cement style shoes that she was going to take on a vacation. And she wanted to see if they could help her walk on water. So that's what happened to her. So she's probably on just she's probably in an ashram right now, really finding herself. So it's
finding herself, really getting centered,
So that's my government secret.
Thank you. You got one week off from Epstein, and 2 weeks from now we'll come back. More Epstein. I want to. I don't know if I was going to do the historical government secret for this week, meaning not current but incredibly fascinating. And I'm wondering if you know. Do you know of the? I think you know about the first one, the missing verse, or the verse we don't sing of the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh God, no! What is this verse? Is it just like "Pledge Allegiance to the Coca-Cola" or something like that? What is?
Far worse than that. So, okay. So the national anthem, Star Spangled Banner, written by Francis Scott Key. Apparently, he was a real lover of slavery, and the lines we don't sing in the national anthem that are written in his original draft: "No refuge could save the hiring and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave." Basically saying that if you're a slave and you escape to fight for the British, which would make sense, like if any of us are a slave somewhere and another force is coming to wage war with the force that imprisoned us, we probably would want to escape and be with that other force because they're offering to make us free. So whether you love America or not, you can understand where these slaves were coming from. And Francis Scott Key is basically saying, you guys are fucking dead. All right. We're going to fucking kill you because you left your enslavement to fight for the other side.
Wow.
And that's in our national anthem.
Oh my God. So another case to say there hasn't been systemic racism in this country since its inception, right? Is that what this is?
Yeah, and the systemic racism, and I'm going to get to one more hidden verse in a moment. But the other thing people don't consider about the systemic racism, the racism that is the foundation of America, is that part of the reason we are one of the world's most wealthy countries, perhaps the most wealthy country, is because during our building up, we were able to extract that wealth from stolen resources. Much of it in the early years being stolen people, in order to, like, you could have an entire plantation of tobacco and pay no one. And imagine the wealth that can be gained when you pay no workers. So that's part of what the foundation of our wealth. And then, of course, after slavery, we continued to steal resources from Africa and other countries and continue to this day. Just look at Syria, where we inked a deal with someone to, some probably rebels over there to steal their oil recently. But so we continue to steal our wealth, and it props us up and allows our empire. So it's not just that it was racist, which is fucked up. It's also that's where our wealth comes from. That's part of the reason we are the world's largest empire, is based on that slavery. So there's that. And then
footnote, where our the blood that is on our hands is also laced with gold. It was all just for money. It's like, we need
a lot
resources.
of people don't know that is the great. Everybody's been looking for the ability to turn water into gold and everything for alchemy for hundreds of years. The true alchemy is turning blood to gold, is actually what we've been able to do.
And America's been doing it so well.
We do it well. All right. So have you heard of the song, "This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land"?
Yes, but I bet you there's a verse that's horrific. Is that what's...
Yes, but the difference is it's not actually horrific. It's actually positive. But it was written by Woody Guthrie, right? In 1943. Oh, no, the photo's in 1943. He wrote it in 1940. And so written by Woody Guthrie, who is a real like champion of the people, you know, the workers, the unions, all that stuff. Like that's what he's known for. And so now this song, "This Land Is Your Land," is held up. I mean, we're taught it in school at such a young age. And of course, we'll ignore the fact that it's incredibly offensive to Native American people, but because we're like, yeah, no, this is my land. Get the fuck off. But
yeah,
the verse, or actually two verses, we don't sing. Let's see. One was a high wall there that and I'm not going to sing it because that would be, everyone would turn off immediately. Was a high wall there that tried to stop me. A sign was painted, said private property, but on the backside, it didn't say nothing. This land was made for you and me. Basically, criticizing the idea of private property and the idea that, like, you could own parts of this country and deny anyone access, even to just walk through. So obviously that had to be cut out because that's anti-capitalist, you know, that's we're buying up large swaths of this nation.
Wow. That's just like, man, of course they had to get rid of that.
I know.
They had to be like, oh, buddy, that's a little too everybody gets along for us.
Yeah.
Like,
another random fun fact. Ted Turner, right? The millionaire, billionaire who created CNN. Right. Ted Turner, I believe, is still the largest landowner in America, owns land the size of Delaware.
Wow. And he's the guy that colorized black and white movies. That's also he's ruining black and white films.
So here's an even more controversial verse. Actually, this was the final verse that had to be cut out because it wouldn't do for an anthem to remind us how to be patriots. One bright sunny morning in the shadow of the steeple, by the relief office, which, you know, back then was the name of the office where you'd go to get like food stamps and stuff.
Right.
By the relief office, I saw my people as they stood hungry. I stood there wondering if this land was made for you and me.
Wow. Oh, that could incite riots. So you better cut that out of there.
Isn't that crazy? Like, just so incredible that it's like these things that we've been taught since we were children have these verses that just completely upend the meaning or, you know, add ideas that are just too threatening to the ruling capitalist ideas.
Well, it proves in a very specific about a specific song, a thing that a theme that you and I have talked about in the past, which is how art, you know, in the 20s and 30s, and even in this song, was used was very political. Art was supposed to inspire. It was supposed to get people. It was supposed to inspire and rile people up. The theater of the 20s and 30s, the songs of the 20s and 30s, were much of it was like socialist, was pro-labor, was like anti-capitalist.
Yeah.
And as you know, as we have talked about just personally, but also on this show, how comedians like us are not rewarded. We don't get fancy Netflix specials. We don't get big sitcoms because this message is not good. Our message is not good for capitalism. And so you're rewarded if the only political comedy you can do is if you like have a couple of Trump jokes, you make fun of his hair, whatever, like Stephen Colbert sold his soul, Bill Maher sold his soul. They all were like real political. They started and then they've all, and this is like,
or you end up in some freak accident where you have a TV show on the most suppressed network in America. But
yes, if you do get a TV show,
that's pretty unusual.
Yeah, you're just gonna be like, oh, here's your TV show, but we're gonna make your network seem like it's a Trojan horse of Putin's.
Right.
Yeah, so like we can't. You know what they've done to you specifically, but to RT in general, when they pulled RT's press passes, like I mean, that's insane. Like
RT was the until I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, was the most watched foreign news outlet. You know, which in the U.S., which includes BBC and CBC and so many others. I mean, they were simply by being outside of that corporate box. People were flocking to it, and they realized they had to shut that down because you can't actually have freedom of ideas out there.
No, you can't. You can't have freedom of ideas, and there's like and I want to I've shown this before, this propaganda multiplier. But it goes to exactly what we're talking about. So the White House, the CIA, and the Pentagon all give their marching orders to AP, AFP, and Reuters, who then filter it down to everybody. Fox News, NPR, BuzzFeed, whatever, USA Today, they all get fed that stuff. Yep. And the thing I always say, I would include then part of this is then the entertainment industry. It's like we've talked about this, like the Marvel movies. They're great fun to watch, but they have literally, CIA has script approval. And yeah, this has happened over decades because of like what they did to this land is our land song. They took those verses out that were like, hey man, why are you putting up signs? You look at the music, and you know, I used to do a movie podcast, and I've watched a lot of movies, and the last time we had movies that were calling out the corruption of all this was really the 70s, when you had like 3 Days of the Condor, a very lesser known movie called The Parallax View.
Apocalypse Now.
The original Apocalypse Now is an anti-war movie. I mean, The Deer Hunter is an anti-war movie. I mean, there were a lot back then, right? Yeah. All these anti-war movies, and there's some criticism of course, they depicted the Vietnamese as just like pajama terrorists or whatever, and that wasn't fair. But in terms of, probably came from their own, rather than it coming from some on high, it probably came from their own cultural bias, you know? Right. It did come from their own cultural bias, which is not that it's right, but it's a little more understandable, I guess, versus someone on high said you can't do that. I mean, you've got the original Rollerball movie, which is like showing you they predicted our sports today, and that there's just corporations, there's not countries anymore. Or like Full Metal Jacket or Network. The movie Network is, I think, pound for pound, the best movie ever, one of the best movies ever made. Watch it. It predicts, I mean, beat for beat, what's happening today in our media. I mean, the scene where the like revolutionaries are arguing deal points. Oh, that is honestly, when I think of that movie, which is one of the best movies ever made, I think of that scene as one of the best scenes ever made. Like I both fell on the floor laughing, and it says so much about where we stand. By the way, I got very lucky. I've never seen, because when I lived in New York, for 12 years. I was very poor for almost all of it, with the exception of a couple of years, but relatively poor. So I was not spending money on play tickets, because tickets in New York are crazy. Right. But someone gifted me tickets, I don't know, a year ago or something, or less, to Network the Play starring Bryan Cranston in New York. And it was awesome. I mean, all those movies shaped there's a great book out there called Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, which talks about that era, which was the studio system had collapsed in the 60s, and in the 70s, it was the Wild Wild West. So all these amazing movies got made, and then the corporations took over Hollywood in the 80s. It was both. It was kind of two things. It was the Wild West, and also the young filmmakers, the guys doing something inventive and new, were like borderline hippies. I mean, they're not now. You know, George Lucas is no hippie now, but at the time, it's like that was the culture. And that's also why the kind of deep state, the CIA, the military, realized that they needed to, get their hands on Hollywood and kind of, stop this kind of freedom of expression. Yeah, I believe it was, what was it? It was either MK Ultra or Mockingbird. I think it was MK Ultra that was like really focused on this, like, we can't let this free thinking hippie ideology take over the mainstream Hollywood media, because they saw how powerful movies and TV shows were. And I mean, to that same angle, you had all these cop shows that I watched that largely showed the police as good guys. There'd be a couple of bad apples or whatever that helped shape the narrative. And so it's all these little things from pulling that lyric out in This Land Is Our Land to what, and they were like, we can't let this. And that's why now there's nothing that subversive that gets out. I mean, it's just rare. You have to dig for it. Like that documentary Out of Shadows, which is a really good documentary, remind people to watch. They had to release it for free on YouTube because no one was going to give them distribution. And I've gone through this myself as a filmmaker. You release a movie and you want to get, and it's all manufactured. Oh, this movie got a lot of buzz at the festivals and it won a bunch of awards. And oh my God, it's got an Oscar. They did that with Icarus. So Icarus was the one saying how Putin and the Soviets used steroids to cheat, which I have no doubt that they did, but we use steroids to cheat all the time. That one, It's not mysterious. It's not a coincidence that movie won.
Right. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that for some of these movies specifically, maybe more so than TV, it's not always that the actual story they're telling is a lie or propaganda. Now, I don't know. I think I did see Icarus, but I don't know whether some of it is exaggerated or not. I'm sure they used some doping, as did many athletes across many nations. But it's more like the time they chose to make this the movie that everyone needs to see. That's the propaganda. So another example of that I feel is Chernobyl is a great show. I mean, did you see it on HBO? Fucking great show. I mean, it's well made. It's well written. The acting is fucking incredible. And of what I know about the history, it's like a lot of it is legit. A lot of it is not incorrect. However, there are some slight things here and there that are kind of designed to be a little more propagandistic. And the fact that show was made by HBO and was a massive show that was pushed upon people as the show to go see, that has to do with the time we're in right now, where they were like, we need some anti-Soviet shit. Let's find the most awful thing that happened in the Soviet Union, and let's just make everybody remember that.
The reason, so that came out right at the time of Creed 2. Who was he fighting in Creed 2? Drago's son. Like they just brought back the same old criminals. And you know this, but many of our audience probably don't. What you're talking about, the censorship of what you're talking about, yes, Chernobyl, well-made. Icarus, well-made movie. It's a very well-made, probably fairly accurate, and a good documentary, which is like a good documentary is like, that's where the investigative journalism is now. But who greenlit that? Why isn't some documentary about what's happening?
Why is it an Oscar winner?
Yeah, why is it an Oscar winner? How come we hear nothing about Yemen? How come Abby Martin's film Gaza Fights for Freedom? How come that did not? The festival shut it down. Nobody. How come HBO isn't buying that documentary? Like, it's very specific.
Yeah.
Who? That's how they censor. They'll put this one to the top. And just that's how they, as I showed in the propaganda multiplier, that's how they shape hearts and minds, like, oh, well, they cheated in the Olympics, and remember how bad Chernobyl was, and oh, isn't it great that Creed's fighting remember how great the Rocky 3 was when he fought, like, it's just keeping that, who are the villains in season 3 of Stranger Things? The Russians.
Yeah. Stranger Things got into it. House of Cards got into it. And actually, because season 3 of House of Cards, it was like the president that he hates is, Vladimir Pushkin or something, it's like two letters off or whatever. And looks like Putin. And you're like, it's very similar, actually. House of Cards and Stranger Things are very similar in that they were brought forward as Netflix shows. And at that point, when they're first being brought forward, they actually have tons of freedom. So they write kind of just completely what they feel like writing. And House of Cards was based on the original House of Cards, so they were writing based on that. And then in that 3rd season or 4th season, the other forces, now that they are massive, now that they know like millions of Americans are watching this. This is one of the most watched and cared about things in American culture. Now is the time we need to get in there and make a point of inserting just enough propaganda that it influences people. And actually, I'm now remembering, I did a redacted segment on the 3rd season of House of Cards when it came out years ago, because I was a big House of Cards fan. I thought the show was excellent. And what it did that I was surprised at is it made our president and the guy under the president total sociopath, or a psychopath, like literally killing people and not caring. And I was like, this is legit. Like they're not caving to the pressure to build up the American government as some kind of, perfect thing and all this shit. And then that third season, the third way Democrats, which are the Democrats, it's a group of Democrats that have a lot of money and they want the Democrats to be more right wing because that's been a real problem. And so the third way Democrats became producers on House of Cards.
Oh.
And in that third season, it was like, not only are we going to make Russia the big evil bad guy, but we're going to try and make you go back to rooting for the American president against the big evil Russian.
Right. Yeah. It's like they're doing that all over the place. I mean, even just the HP, like, so a buddy of mine gave me his login information for one of the streaming services. I don't pay for any of them.
I love how you felt the need. You were like, what if people think I am rolling in the cash needed for streaming services? I better let them know I stole this like a good American.
Somebody's got $9 a month. They put the two of the three Christopher Nolan Batman movies. Now, maybe there's a rights issue that I don't know about, but I find it odd. I'm a huge fan of those movies. Batman Begins, great origin story. The Dark Knight is the Joker one, which is great. Heath Ledger's great in that. The third one, The Dark Knight Rises, is really the Occupy Wall Street movie. That's when it came out in 2012. And it's where they hijack Bane and the League of Shadows hijack the Gotham Stock Exchange.
Right.
And they're like, Anne Hathaway's Catwoman's like, you guys, it's all about the rich ruling class has taken away too much from people. And the League of Shadows is like coming to even the score. And it's like, I as a huge Batman fan, I'm like, I think Bane's right. I've watched that.
Yeah. But so was that propaganda to begin with, you think, where they were like, let's make the Occupy Wall Street ideals the bad guy of this film?
It very well could be. And Batman is like, I need to rise up and stop these people who really just wanted to eviscerate the ruling class. And it's like,
eviscerate capitalism.
Yes. Eviscerate capitalism. They're really done with capitalism and the broken lies of it. And I'm wondering if they're like, let's not put that one up now because too many people might start siding with Bane and the League of Shadows. So why is this not on? It's not on HBO Go. The first two, but why would you have? And they have all the horrible Batman movies with Val Kilmer and all those awful ones.
Oh yeah.
But they don't have the third of the Nolan trilogy. I find that peculiar. Anyway, you got time for one more? Or are you done?
No, I got time.
All right. Government Secrets Segment 4.
Bonus content. I call this the boner.
Gov seeks boner, hard and firm. All right. I love going into the history books for some Gov seeks. And I found this one. I wasn't aware of this. I was aware that this happened, but I didn't know the exact name of it. Another great operation from our friends over at the CIA. And it sounds fun. Operation Bloodstone.
Oh wow. I don't know that one.
It's the lesser known. It's more of the B-sides of the CIA's operations. Operation Bloodstone was a covert operation whereby the CIA sought out Nazis and collaborators living in Soviet-controlled areas to work undercover for U.S. intelligence inside the Soviet Union, Latin America, and Canada, as well as domestically within the United States.
Why specifically Nazis?
That's a great question. I think it was, well, here's what they said.
Were they just like, these guys are super efficient? Let's call up those guys.
Well, it's also like, this is the CIA is all about leverage. So it's like, hey, the whole world is hunting you down. We could give your name up to Mossad, or you could do this little thing for us.
Could be.
So Operation Bloodstone was proposed by the U.S. State Department and was approved by the State Army, Navy, Air Force Commanding Committee, or SANAC, Jesus, on June 10, 1948. In the initial stages of the operation, a brief paper identified these anti-communist elements in non-Western Hemisphere countries outside of the Soviet orbit who had shown extreme fortitude in the face of the communist menace. So,
fortitude in the face of the communist menace. Is that the euphemism for killing Jews? Is that what just happened?
Yeah. Boy, those Nazis got great fortitude. You know, I mean, boy, the Khmer Rouge. When I think of fortitude, I think of the Khmer Rouge. I think of Idi Amin. Those guys all have fortitude.
Look at the fucking fortitude of these guys to just keep killing so many Jews.
I mean, look, they went to it. They thought it out. They got train cars. They got oven. They really just like, this is how, if you think America's the good guys and you think Joe Biden is somehow better than Trump, or you think Trump is better than Biden, just know that we live in a horrific country with a history of songs telling slaves not to join the Brits because we'll kill them. And, you know, that's what America really is. Here's what else they put. They also, these guys with fortitude were, quote, they have demonstrated the know-how to counter communist propaganda and techniques to obtain control of mass movements. So don't care that you were a Nazi and that you did horrific acts of genocide. You're good at fighting commies because commies are bad for business. That's literally was the thinking. How insane is that? That sounds crazy, right? This sounds like,
so they snuck up to them like in a cafe and they were like, hey, commie fighter. They just grabbed them all up. Yeah, no, I think the U.S. in World War II, when you really look at it, I think the ruling elite there was a lot about the Nazis they respected.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
They were ultimately forced to come into the war to save Britain, and because we got attacked and everything. But I think behind closed doors they were like, "Yeah, these Nazis, they got some fortitude."
They got the fortitude to fight a communist. You know, the communists that help us defeat the Nazis, the communists that lost 20-some million people.
Dude, that's one of those facts that somehow slipped through my fingers until I found out like a year ago. 20 million Russians killed fighting Nazis, and we lost something like 250,000, and yet we see...
The specific numbers are America lost 419,000 people.
Okay, 419,000.
But 4,000 of them were Pearl Harbor. The rest of them were soldiers over there. But those 4,000, only a handful of them were civilians. So we didn't lose any civilians. The 20 million of Russia, it's about 3 or 4 million soldiers, military people, and then the rest were civilians. Just to give you some perspective on how awful it was.
Well, a lot of I know that they did get to the point where like it was just like anyone can grab a gun. So they're civilians trying to fight. Yeah.
Right. But there also was the Stalingrad blockade that starved people for a winter.
Yeah.
Like
but like 20 they lose 20 million and we lose it was a half of a percent of our population back in that time.
Right.
And they lose 20 million, and yet we run around saying we won World War II, and I think the Russians did something too.
Right. Thanks for helping, but now you're the bad guy, and we're going to hire Nazis to infiltrate your countries.
Yeah.
Like how? It's so insane. I didn't know. I literally didn't know this till I visited Russia last year. A year ago, I went to Russia. And I asked, and I found all this out. I was like, what? They had female snipers. It was just like, I heard the bombing. And when I was in St. Petersburg, which was Stalingrad, they were like, it was horrific. Everybody had a story. It would literally be like, Lee, if it's like, oh, we would all have stories like, oh, I remember my grandmother telling me when they bombed Chicago and she didn't have food for months. That's the stories that they all have.
The story would be like, my grandmother remembers when she was 7 years old and her dad pulled her aside and said, I'm headed out there. If I die, take care of your younger brother.
Yes.
And I was 7. Like, crazy shit.
Yeah. It'd be like, I remember we had to go dig in the trash cans and we'd find a dead soldier. And if they had food rations in their pack, we would take that and that's how we would survive. Like, it would be like horrific stories like that. Yep. And then the other thing, when I talk to people in Russia, I go, what's another thing? I go, you guys always say you won the Cold War. You didn't win the Cold War. We were done with communism and we got fed up with it and internally said, we're done with this. You guys act like we did this. Like we were fed up internally. Like, you take credit for ending.
Well, I mean, the Soviet Union collapsed and we put in a capitalist, Yeltsin, and
who's drunk, who's an alcoholic.
Well, listen, they all are. But yeah, we put in Yeltsin. We bragged about it on the cover of Time magazine or whatever, and yeah, it collapsed and became capitalism. So that we were done with the Cold War because it wasn't the Soviet Union anymore.
Right. But we take credit for that.
But now we're back. But now we're back into it.
Good. So that's Operation Bloodstone, which is the stepbrother, the lesser known of Operation Paperclip, which is where we took Nazi scientists and used them for our space program and whatever else. But Operation,
listen, Nazis are really good to have in your back pocket when you need them.
They're very versatile. Like this, another thing, like there's no systemic racism in America. We hired Nazis. We fought them in a war. Like there's 400,000 dead Americans. Many of them were killed by Nazis, but hey, the smart ones.
This actually could be a whole another segment of government secrets, but the companies that continued to operate in Nazi Germany or worked with the Nazis, like IBM, did their systems or whatever. And then Fanta was a new name that Coca-Cola came up with so that they could basically keep operating in Nazi Germany because you couldn't, the sanctions and everything, you couldn't keep, exporting Coke products and things to Nazis to Germany. And so they were like, well, let's just keep selling soda. We'll just give it a new name, Fanta. So like the Fanta is basically the Nazi Coke.
Enjoy a grape flavored Nazi Coke, everybody. So yeah, that's it. Operation Bloodstone, with a fun title for starters, and something you didn't know, and a government secret that I just learned about, and hopefully you learned and our audience learned about it. So that's it for Gov Seeks Ep 7. Put it in the books, Lee.
It's all done, man. It is done. And I thank you all for joining us. And I'm going to head out while Graham keeps chatting with you.
Where can people find you online?
I've been doing a bunch of Moment of Clarity videos on various topics at youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. So everybody should head over to that channel later and check that out. And my website's leecamp.com. You should be able to find all the shit there.
Nice. And of course, GrahamElwood.com for all my stuff. I have the Vigilante Volume 2, The Dark Knight. I only made 50. They're numbered. They're collector's items. There's only about 20 left. I ship using the post office because I'm not a monster. And
how do you find one of those blue boxes? Do you chase them down the road as they load them onto tow trucks? Or
no, I just go to my local post office. I did it today. It's very easy to do. It's so easy to print. I print the labels at home. They have barcodes.
Wait, but I heard the post office, Fox News told me the post office doesn't work. And if you go there, you can't send things.
Yeah. And then right after that was an ad for FedEx. So I ship exclusively using the post office, and I will till I'm dead or they close it down. So go to GrahamElwood.com, get all my merch. It's all on sale, and it all has free shipping.
Nice.
Share, and subscribe this at iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to Government Secrets. Subscribe, download, whatever the thing is, and share it on your social media.
You know what I do to ship my merch is I go to the public pool and I find some children and I tell them to go by their nearest public school and borrow some pencils that are public and write out the address and then send it in the post office.
That sounds like a great plan.
It's very public.
It's very public. Way to do that. Well, thank you, Lee. Government Secrets, episode 7.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Graham.
Bye-bye. Hey, everyone. Great ways to support the show are go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood, where you get bonus content for as little as $2 a month, or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. That's the future. Also, GrahamElwood.com, where all my merchandise is on sale and ships exclusively with the United States Post Office. Like my Vigilante Volume 2, The Dark Knight. We only made 50 of them. They're going fast. Go to GrahamElwood.com to support the show. I'm on Venmo and PayPal, P.O. Box, all of that, GrahamElwood.com.